Chapter 4. Michael heard Mia's bedroom door close. That meant Dad had finished reading to her. Michael took a deep breath. He had to convince Dad that they couldn't still foster Otis. But how? Dad appeared in the doorway. "Hey, how was your practice today?" he asked. Michael frowned. Basketball was the last thing on his mind right now. "Okay, I guess," he said. "Can I talk to you about something else?" "Of course." Dad reached out to squeeze Michael's shoulder. "What is it?" Dad decided just to tell Dad everything. "Pete called. He wants us to foster Otis." Dad raised his eyebrows as if he was to say, "Go on." "Otis is what he named the kitten. After Otis, elevators," Michael continued, "and some singer." "Ah, yes, Otis Redding, the King of Soul," Dad said. Michael took another deep breath. Pete said he wasn't sure that keeping Otis was going to work out, and he wants to bring him over here tonight. Dad looked surprised. "Tonight?" "Pete sounded really upset," Michael said. "And Otis has nowhere else to go. You know, it isn't just up to me." Dad gave Michael a serious look. "We have to check with Mom." "Yeah, but there's a chance we'll convince her." Michael kicked his toe against the kitchen cabinet. Mom was probably closing up the garden shop now and wouldn't be home until after his bedtime. He knew she wasn't crazy about the idea of taking in another kitten. Why would Peter do this with Otis if she said no? "Why don't we just give her a call?" Dad suggested. "Just tell her what you told me. You can write it down, the major points, before you call so you don't forget. Then she and I can discuss it while you get ready for bed." Michael sat down with a pencil and paper. A few minutes later, he called Mom. He was so nervous, he raced through the list of reasons we should foster Otis. He paused before the last one. "It would be a huge help to Pete," Michael finished. He waited hopefully for Mom's reaction. Had he been convincing? Had he talked Mom into it? Mia probably would have been better off at this. "Well, I don't know, honey," Mom said after a little while. "A kitten that young might be a lot of work." Michael grinned into the phone. That was promising. "I don't know" was a lot better than no. He pressed on. "You know, Mia and I will help." Mom was quiet on the other end. "Pete has done plenty of us over the years," she said finally. "I guess we owe him a favor. Let me talk to your father for a moment." Michael handed Dad the phone and watched his expression as he talked things over with Mom. He was smiling. That was good news, right? Dad passed the phone back to Michael and said, "Your mother wants to talk to you again." Michael held his breath until Mom began to speak. "All right, tell Pete we'll take Otis," she said. "But remember, we are only fostering, and I don't want to stay up late waiting for this cat. If Pete doesn't come in half an hour, we have to go to bed, mister." "Yes," Michael clenched his fist as if he had just made a great basketball play. Then he froze, a little surprised at himself. Why was he so happy about a silly cat? Mia would be thrilled, but then she was a cat lover to begin with. "Thanks, Mom," Michael said. "You're going to love Otis." "I'm sure I will," Mom said. Michael could tell by her voice that she was smiling. Michael said goodbye, then headed straight for the hall closet. He knew that Mom had stored all the cat stuff there after they had found a home for Callie. While Dad called Pete, Michael pulled out the litter box, a blanket for a bed, kitten food, and a few toys. Michael wanted to have everything set up before Pete came. While Michael got things ready for Otis, he kept his eye on the clock, hoping Pete and the kitten would get there before he had to go to bed. He was in the room until he heard the buzzer. Michael raced out of the apartment and into the hallway, still pulling on his pajama top. He could see Pete through the glass in the building big front door. "Hi, Pete," Michael said as he unbolted the door and pulled it open. "Hey, Michael. Thanks for helping me out," Pete said as he came into the hallway. He had a backpack on backwards so that the bag part was on his chest. "You want to say hi, Otis?" Pete asked in a soft voice. Pete leaned over, and Michael could see that the little tabby was inside the backpack. Only his fluffy head stuck out. He yawned, showing his pink tongue and tiny needle-sharp teeth. "Oh, no, another new place. I was just getting used to the old one. All I need is a quiet spot to go to sleep. I hope I can take a nice nap here." "Hi, Otis," Michael said as he scratched the kitten behind the ears. "Do you remember me? You're going to stay here for a while. How long are you guys going to stand out there in the hall?" Dad called from the apartment door. "Coming, Joe," Pete said as he followed Michael down the hallway. Once they were inside the Battatelli's apartment, Michael and Pete sat down on the couch and Dad sunk into his favorite chair, the old rocking chair. Pete smiled as he unzipped his backpack. "There you go, buddy. I know you want out." Otis looked around and then slowly stepped out of the bag. He testing his footing on the shaggy rug and sniffed in all directions. His whiskers quivered and his ears twitched. Michael thought Otis looked nervous. That was a bummer. He had hoped the kitten would feel at home right away. "He's a great kitten," Pete said. He picked up Otis with one hand, and the kitten promptly snuggled into his lap. He used the litter box, and he was really, really good at the vet. We played a little this afternoon, and he fell asleep while I was practicing guitar. Michael noticed that Pete's smile began to fade as he continued, but then he got really scared when my band came for rehearsal this evening. As soon as he heard the drums, he raced into the room and hid under the bed. He hissed whenever anyone tried to get him out. Peter shook his head. "I just can't have a cat who doesn't like music and other people. There always is going to be a lot going on at my place. I don't think he'd be happy with me," and the vet said it was important for Otis to get settled in a forever home as soon as possible. Michael looked at Otis, curled up in Pete's lap. The kitten had closed his eyes and tucked his nose under his tail. "He sure seems to like you now," Michael blurted out. Otis looks really happy." "Well, he wasn't before." Pete scratched one of the kitten's orange ears. "He hated my band's music. I think he needs a quieter home. That's why I brought him here." Michael looked up at his feet and nodded. Peter was a good guy, and Michael really liked him, but he couldn't help thinking that Pete was making a big mistake. How could you give up a cat as sweet as Otis?